It's time for me to move away from the game of basketball.
Westbrook stops at the 1 and goes down to a knee.
Bitter labor dispute caused the cancellation of the playoffs.
You don't know when he's going to be back. Two really serious concussions.
Hello and welcome back to How to Fantasy Sports. In today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look back at week 6 of the fantasy football season. Another week that has really continued a trend out there that there really hasn't been a lot of great fantasy developments over the course of this season. A few minor injuries here and there, and not really any great strong developments of players from the waiver wire. So all things considered, not the strongest of fantasy football seasons so far. And really, hopefully you drafted a good team coming out of the draft, in that there really hasn't been ways for you to improve your team outside of, say, trading. And so speaking of trading, it still looks like it's the best way for you to improve your team today. So let's take a look at some players that we're thinking you could buy low on and sell high on. Starting first with the sell high category, I don't think there's any better opportunity for you to sell any Sean Green shares that you have. Really, we think the play of Sean Green from the first 5 weeks of the season is more indicative of what he will do for the remainder of the season than what he did in week 6. So while you enjoyed the fruits of his labors in week 6, we think it's best for you right now to sell high. And also highlight to anyone who's looking at buying into Sean Green that he actually is now even the sort of unchallenged running back there, that Bilal Powell looks like he could be down for a while with an injury. So it looks even more tempting to pick up Sean Green now, but really he's still the same runner that he was through the first 5 weeks, more so than he was the runner in week 6. And we'd also be looking to sell our Jordy Nelson shares right now, as again, much like we talked about with Sean Green, we think what he's done in the first 5 weeks is actually more indicative of what he'll do for the remainder of the season than what he did in week 6, which was a really good week, but not the weeks that you can expect as consistently moving forward. Players that you might want to consider buying low, we like Miles Austin still more than Des Bryant for the remainder of the season, despite the fantastic week that Des Bryant had last week. We still think that Miles Austin is the number one receiving option there over the remaining parts of the season. Will perform better than Des Bryant. So if you can get a disgruntled owner there who feels a little unsure about Miles Austin's role in the offense there, I think he definitely worthwhile picking up on the cheap. A couple of injuries that we're looking at from week 6. One, the DeMarco Murray injury. Obviously, Felix Jones is a natural add at this point. Now, we know what we've gotten from Felix Jones in the past, so our expectations aren't that high for him, but definitely a worthy add for the weeks that DeMarco Murray is out. And of course, we have the uncertainty of the injury around Trent Richardson. Obviously, Montero Hardesty would be a good add there, but again, this is only really if Trent Richardson is hurt, and even if he's only hurt for 1 week, unless you really need it or you don't have any better options on your bench, he's really not worth going all out trying to claim him from your waiver wire. And finally, for those real deep league players who use a lot of quarterbacks in your leagues, it does look like Kevin Kolb is out for about 6 weeks with his injury. So John Skelton is the natural add there. If you're using Kevin Kolb, you'll want to use John Skelton, who has shown that he's not reluctant to throw it quite a bit. So he has some potential out there, but really, if you were relying on Kevin Kolb to carry your fantasy squad, we don't like your chances any more than if you're using John Skelton to carry your fantasy football team. Adds for the waiver wire this week, we're looking at adding Daryl Richardson from the St. Louis Rams, who looks like he's carving out a little bit larger role in the St. Louis Rams offense. But really, keep your expectations of him in check, as Steven Jackson isn't just simply going to go away, even though he has a contract, which does seem to indicate that the Rams have no real need to play him extensively over the second half of the season. We still think this is going to be a timeshare, which is really going to limit the upside of both these runners moving forward. So I wouldn't go investing all that much in Daryl Richardson, but definitely worth an add and potentially a flex role on your team during some bye weeks. Other running backs to consider adding from the waiver wire, if you haven't already, William Powell, who didn't really get the start in the Arizona Cardinals offense, but really demonstrated that he's much more of a lead running back there than LaRod Stevens-Howling ever will be. Other running backs that you might want to consider, Dexter McCluster from Kansas City Chiefs, now that he's back there. Definitely worth a play, as he's a pretty significant contributor in the offense there. Players that we're not adding from the waiver wire this week, unless we're in a very, very deep league, we're not adding Josh Gordon from the Cleveland Browns. It would take a lot for us to add the second best wide receiving option on the Cleveland's offense on any given day. So if you're in a very, 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 very deep league, yes, consider it. But otherwise, this is not really a wide receiving option that you want to be relying that heavily on for your team. And that's it for our look back at the week 6 of the fantasy football season. A week that continues the depressing trend of not so much happening in terms of fantasy developments from week to week. And really a season that, unless you draft very well coming out of your draft, you're probably sitting with a team that you're going to struggle to improve with unless you can find some good finds through trades. Anyway, if you have any questions, send us an email at question at howtofantasysports.com. Otherwise, subscribe to this channel to stay informed of our future videos. Thanks for watching, and best of luck in week 7.